All right, so Eguy Rosario, he was one of a couple Padres to homer today. Terso Ornelas also homered, but with Eguy, I think he has the edge to make the Padres roster, and a big part of that is because of his versatility. We got to remember also that he has no more minor league options left. He's out of options, and there are others that are in this competition that have minor league options, or they're on a minor league deal already to begin with. So they could obviously just go to El Paso. So let's start off with 11 because there's 13. There's going to be 13 pitchers, 13 position players. 11 of the 13, we already know who they're going to be. Those spots are already taken. So let's go through those and then go through the remaining candidates and why, to me, I think Eguy stands out for at least that last spot. But there's obviously Luis Arise. We just go around the infield. Arise, Crony, Bogey, Manny, Connor Joe. There's the platoon there, left field, but he can play first. He can DH. Jason Hayward, Tyler Wade, as an infield versatile guy, speed, can play defense. The vet, and he's on a major league deal, by the way. So for anyone that's like, oh, I'd rather have this guy over Wade, well, just the bottom line is he's making the roster. He's on a major league deal. Merrill, obviously, in the outfield, Tatis. And then catching, there's going to be two catchers, Campy, and then probably Elias Diaz. Well, Diaz is a major league deal, so I should probably switch that and say Diaz and probably Campy. Maldonado's on a minor league deal, so he's going to have to really play his way onto the roster, and I don't really see him doing that. He's 39, and he's past his prime. He's not known, at least recently, for his offense. And so, to me, there are guys that are fighting for spots that are just like the classic major league vet. He's been in the big leagues before, and we'll stash him in the minors in case there's an injury. He can help out some other prospects that are coming up, and they come through AAA, and it'll just be good to have him down there. Which it would be good to have Martin Maldonado down there. So we have 11 spots named there. Then 2 spots left. One of them, I would assume, wouldn't go to a third catcher. It would go to someone DH, power, bat. And we could have someone else come in and Preller acquires someone else, and then this whole equation changes. But for now, it would be, for me, Yuli Gurriel or Gavin Sheets, one of those two. Gurriel's a righty. Sheets, I believe, is a lefty. So if the Padres feel like they need another lefty, then maybe Sheets has the advantage there. Gurriel, though, has more years in the big leagues, more experience. Do the Padres want to value that? And maybe that's the position where it's like, we're going to take the hot bat and we'll put the other bat in the minor leagues. And we'll see what happens. But I think that one of those 2 last bench spots left would go to a power guy. Then the last one for me would be more of a utility guy. You could say, well, who's going to be the backup center fielder if we go with Eguy Rosario? Well, then you could have Jason Hayward play center if you need him to. You can have Tatis slide over to center if you need him to. There are other guys. Merrill is an everyday player. So I'm not really worried about who the backup center fielder is going to be. If he gets hurt, then you can move one of the corners to center, and then you could call up Brandon Lockridge or Forrest Wall or someone like that could play center field maybe better, or just someone that you'd rather have play center field over Tatis if you want him to be in right field and just be there every day. So we look at these other spots. I think Eguy has the advantage. I talked about the minor league options, not having that left. If the Padres want to make sure he's in this organization still, have him on the roster. He has some big league experience. He can play second. He's played third, and he's getting reps in left field. He homered today. He has not done well in his big league career against right-handed pitching, and I know it's just spring training. It's a 3-game sample size, but so far early in spring, he's already been doing better against right-handed pitching, and usually pitching is ahead of hitters, so maybe that's an encouraging sign. But I know it's just spring training games, and we're not seeing the at-bats that he is taking and other guys are taking on the backfields, unless it gets posted on social media from one of the beat writers that's there and is videoing. So That final spot, Rosario or Maldonado, we already talked about him. Third catcher, I don't think so. Brett Sullivan, fourth catcher, no. Lockridge and Forrest Wall to me are more like speed defense options. That's more of like postseason. Hey, let's put him on the roster in a pinch running situation. So for me, again, I would just go with a corner outfielder, stick him in center if something happens to Merrill. Hayward has, I know he's not the same Hayward that he was, but he has plenty of center field experience. Tatis, we know he can play center field. He's like the most athletic guy in the league. So I'm not worried there. Mike Brosseau, he's kind of like Mason McCoy. I would say better than Mason McCoy, but just El Paso, good infield depth guy, veteran guy to have. He's one of those that I talked about earlier. Just a guy that's been in the big leagues, and it's nice to have him in El Paso in case you need him. And I assume he'd be willing to be, and he's on a minor league deal, I believe, anyway. He would be in AAA. Sheets or Gurriel for that DH spot. The other one, I think, would probably stick in El Paso and just say, hey, I'm going to stick it out here for a little bit at least, and I could be brought up if I play really well and there's an injury, or if the other guy isn't hitting. Oscar Gonzalez, Jonathan Perlaza, I already talked about Forrest Wall briefly there. I put him in the Lockridge part, group them together. Perlaza, Gonzalez, those are two that are interesting as well. Terso Ornelas is also interesting for today. Gonzalez is more of like just big league vet, good. You can have him in El Paso. Padres have those big league vets in El Paso every year. Okay. I like Rosario over like Perlaza, Gonzalez, Tirso Ornelas. I think Ornelas could. I would be surprised, to be honest, if he's not on the big league roster at some point this year because it's a long year and injuries happen. But he doesn't have the versatility that Eguy Rosario has. I guess if Terso like hits the cover off the ball and Eguy struggles, then we could see it. But if I'm Mike Schilt and this is a guy that has versatility, can play the outfield, can play the infield, and let's say he can produce better, so in spring against right-handed pitching, we know he mashes against left-handers. He has power potential. He's been with you before at the big league level. I think that's the option that you want as that last guy, someone with that versatility, not someone that only is going to play left or only going to play the outfield or only going to play the infield. They have Tyler Wade for that. There are guys that they have for that. You have Connor Joe, you have Hayward, you have those options. But with Eguy, that versatility is big. And I'm not just talking about some random guy that can't hang with big league pitching. Eguy, I think, can do that. And again, I think the progression. He's one of those guys that I am watching closely, and I'm sure the Padres are definitely watching closely as he's fighting for a spot this spring. And that's going to be an interesting thing to talk about and just pay attention to. I know there's some Padres fans that they just want the season to get here because it's not like they're watching Merrill this past year at spring training, like fight for a starting spot in the outfield and like one of your top prospects. Let's see how he does. This year, we know who's going to be starting. It's filling out the rest of the bench and looking at the rotation as well. But I'm talking about on the position player side. We know that it's going to be Hayward in left field or it's going to be Connor Joe, someone in left field. We know Merrill. We know Tatis. We know the infield if Arise stays. We know who's catching, at least one of the two who would be starting and then the other on the bench. There's just not as many question marks. So I understand if you have that opinion of like, let's just get the season. I'm done with this. It was cool seeing that first game, but I'm already over it. But for me, and this is coming from like a diehard fan perspective, I'm still very interested in seeing how this roster is going to play out, even on the position player side. Is Eguy going to prove his worth, his versatility? How is he going to do in left field? And can he improve at least for this like month against the right-handed pitching? How is Terso Ornelas going to do? How many opportunities are these guys going to get? And I know as we get later into spring, the starters are going to be playing more and more. But really, like, again, not just against anybody, but these guys fighting for a competition or fighting for a spot. They're in the competition when they're facing big league guys like Matthew Boyd, the Cubs pitcher starter today, facing those guys, not random number 78 I've never heard of, but major league guys. How are they doing in those at bats? And Mike Schilt talked about this. I forget if it was today with the media scrum before the game or this past week, but he was talking about the intent, not really what the result is in spring training, but the process, the contact. Did he make solid contact? If he gets out, whatever, but did he make solid contact? Does he have an approach up there at the plate? Little things like that. And I'm sure, like, outfield wise, David Macias, one of the outfield guys, probably looking at positioning and first step on balls, tracking route, like how do you get to a ball in the outfield, base run, all that stuff. Little things like that, not necessarily what was his batting average in spring training, which sometimes we can get caught up in too much. But really, okay, is he hitting the ball on a line? Or was it not hit hard, but the sun got in the way, so it ends up being called a hit? Or, just one of those baseball plays that happens, right? So for me, really, it comes down to that versatility for Eguy Rosario. And if you're Eguy, you're probably like, hey, as long as I can hang in there in the box this spring, I should be on the roster because I'm out of those minor league options. While other guys, they can say, hey, let's just put him down. We have that ability to do that. With Eguy, another team could grab him if the Padres say, you're not going to be on the big league roster. He doesn't have that option left to go to the minor leagues. So that's what I've got here on the Padres, like, depth bench competition. You can give me your thoughts in the comments if I missed anyone that should be mentioned as a part of that bench competition. But yeah, Padres, who cares if they won or lost? But I guess some people on social media don't understand sarcasm. Padres lost 10-5 to the Cubs, and I tweeted out, embarrassing, must win tomorrow. But I guess some people thought I was actually being serious. Sarcasm, everybody.